Hello everyone, and welcome to the module American Empire, second year history class here at the University of Birmingham. I decided to film outside today for a couple of reasons to introduce the module. I thought this was an appropriate place to begin here under the clock tower, which we all know so well. Not just to sort of set the stage here on campus, but also because there's quite an important thematic connection between the tower that we look at all the time, the most prominent structure on campus, and the module that we're going to embark on together. So first of all, as a sort of monument to imperialism is one of the connections, a thematic connection. And so thinking about empire, of course, is something that maybe comes a little bit more natural in the British context, especially when you have such reminders as the clock tower to always keep it on our minds. In the United States, the more informal nature of U.S. empire makes it, in some ways, a little bit more of a controversial topic, and we'll also consider that angle of it as well. Another thing to think about is, as we are on campus, or as we're thinking about campus, if we're engaging with the class online, the years in which this clock tower, and what a nice morning it is. It's October right now as I'm filming. The years during which the clock tower was built in the early part of the 20th century were also the very years in which the United States was really it was a really pivotal moment in the relationship between the British Empire and what we might call American Empire, the U.S. Empire. In that this was the period in which the British Empire was still the most dominant, but the rise of the United States and the way in which the United States would kind of ultimately act as sort of an imperial successor to Britain was much in evidence at that time, and we'll talk about that when we get to that part of the course as well. So the module overall, I mean, the United States, as you know, is the most powerful society on Earth and the most powerful society in human history. So we want to look in a transnational way at kind of how that came to be. That's going to be one of our main tasks. And in order to do that, we'll look at formal and informal forms of power. We'll look at the foreign policies and diplomatic history. We'll look at different presidential administrations, secretaries of state, this kind of formal articulations of power, but also very much informal articulations of power too. Social movements, consumerism, culture, intellectual production. There's a number of different ways in which the US interaction with the world has played out. So we'll consider those as well. We'll also want to think about this as a two-way interaction, in that the United States has had a major impact on the world, as you already know, but we're also going to think about the ways in which US interaction with the world has shaped and reshaped the United States within its borders as well. So we're going to want to look at structures of power in order to do this. Class, gender, and race, pretty foremost among them. One of the great things about my job is I have a really wonderful group of US Americanists that I work with, and they'll be introducing themselves individually in some short welcome videos, I hope. So you'll get to meet them as well, and I'll be lucky to be working with them and with you. Last thing I'll say, in terms of the readings, you'll see them posted. We'll generally read an article per week, but throughout the term, we're going to be reading a book together, and I brought a copy of it here. It's called, provocative title, We Sell Drugs, The Alchemy of U.S. Empire by Susanna Rice. And we're going to look at this as we're going to read this across multiple weeks of the module, and we're going to look at drug control in the international context and U.S. involvement therein as something of a case study. Of course, we will get this book in at the library, but I really recommend that students, if you can, get a copy of it, get your own copy of it, buy a physical copy of this book, because you will learn it better if you do, and if you can afford it. And we will be looking at it in some detail throughout the term. I'll also post a link. I find these days when I'm buying books, I want to get something from an independent local bookseller, and I'll post a link to one that I know in case you're wanting to go that route in terms of purchasing, if that's what you want to do. Okay, I think that's it. Again, welcome to the module. I'll post a more individual introduction to myself on the course site as well, and I look forward to seeing you in the class. See you later.